It's recording now, mate.
Mate, look at me with these big black
Big
headphones on today.
Look at those awful headphones, bro.
Look, my voice today is going to be Chris. C-R-I-S.
Comment below. Is it crisp? Is Rahat's voice crisp?
No.
Oi.
Chris. You leave the P out.
You think it's good, yeah, G? I want to show you something. What's going on, crew?
Man's got the Joe Rogan special.
I brought it out today. I brought it out to see what it sounds like.
I've ordered mine now, so I'm just waiting for it to arrive. But once we all get set up with the mics and stuff, post lockdown.
Yeah. All right.
Chris.
So anyone listening, the audio game is about to go up a whole nother level, and we're also going to be recording together in the office once it's safe.
You're gonna hear our angelic voices for what they really are. It's gonna be beautiful.
All right, mate.
Excellent. All right, I think we've had enough from that now.
All right, who's introducing? Yeah,
all right, I'll do it this week. All right, guys, welcome to Solace Talks. Today we're going to be talking about a really, really interesting topic, a really interesting time. So, what's the topic today, Rahat and Philippe?
So, we're going to be touching on social media today. We're going to see where the conversation takes us, really. We're going to keep it kind of natural. I don't want to get too specific with an agenda because there's so much we can go into. Mainly, I don't know, there's a few things I personally want to touch on, like insecurities, finding comfort in social media. And there's a lot of opinions that sort of float around this with what people consider right and wrong, both on your mental health or even just general usage. But yeah.
Cool. Right. So what is the first memory you lot had of social media? What's like the first introduction you guys had to it?
Mate. Facebook, man.
Facebook. What about MySpace?
No, forget about MySpace. Actually, I was thinking Bebo as well. Bebo,
Pixo. Anyone have a Pixo? Pixo website? Shout out to my Pixo people.
I started with MySpace, man. Who remembers that owner, the random guy? Everyone had him on their friend list. Tom from MySpace.
What is he doing now? I wonder where he is, man.
Oh my god, that guy! I have a vivid
memory
of the picture of him. Yeah, literally.
No, I don't remember that, to be fair. But Bebo was the one, though.
Bebo,
you boys didn't jump on Bebo, innit? None of you boys, innit?
Bebo was nearly really.
No, but the thing is, I clocked Bebo, MySpace, and all of that. I was using it around year 7, year 8, and Facebook started getting popular around that time as well.
Yeah, a little bit later,
generation.
I think. Yeah.
So you remember you could go onto a MySpace account and like you could put a song there and it automatically starts playing.
Your song used to do like I went in quite deep. I did the URL code, so I used to make sure I had like certain like bits pop up. I had different like designs on it, like because I thought that was gonna make the girls like me. and I know a lot of guys, and probably a lot of girls and all in between.
Mate, I used to put absolute bangers on there, mate. Busted, year 3000.
Yeah, I love Busted.
Club 7.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
Well, I remember Facebook as well. It was that time when you were in our teenage years, banging out FIFA, the Facebook apologies, isn't it?
Facebook apologies, yeah.
You remember that?
Well, wait, what was that?
Yeah. So if you lose 5-0 FIFA, if you lose like 5-0, you got to like do a Facebook apology. Yeah. It was like things like that, bro.
Yeah, I remember.
I think Facebook deaded for us when the older generation, the parents' generation, start getting on it, and then we're like, nah, Instagram's the next thing.
Facebook's a crazy place, like, when you like, one thing I noticed with social media, right, the commenters on it all have this very different culture. Like, if you go onto YouTube and the way the people have their banter there and the way they get along with each other or the way they argue, very, very similar. You go onto Instagram, again, very similar. You go onto Twitter.
Twitter's right, man. Twitter's
so true. Bro. You're so right.
Facebook is the worst. Is
that absolute hell?
No, Twitter. I disagree, bro.
When you got Donald Trump like tweeting like anything,
bro. The most savage people are on Twitter. Like the most savage stuff happens on Twitter.
Yes
like,
and no. 100%.
Yes.
So, but with Twitter, right? It's generally known that like don't take anything serious there.
Yeah,
like,
it's all humorous.
People are completely outrageous on it.
Like,
90% of people understand that. Don't just take it on the chin or with a pinch of salt. But then you go onto Facebook, right, and you see a picture of a cat and someone's picked up the cat and maybe dropped it from a foot high of the ground, and you got some woman in there going, you shouldn't be allowed near cats, you abuser, and then before you know it, there's hundreds of comments of people just at each other, all people in their like 40s, 50s, 30s, and they are savage.
I've seen that.
It's I think it's one of the most easily offended places, like the polar opposite to Twitter, I think, because the comments on Facebook are like overly sensitive people who are, they want to argue over everything and like almost everything offends someone. Whereas Twitter, it's like, if you take offense to something, it's like, you shouldn't be here.
Yeah, no, it's definitely like different. They're almost like different personalities. So like Twitter's like that kind of sarcastic, funny, witty kind of person.
Yeah, and everyone trying their hardest sort of force jokes.
Yeah,
as much as possible. Like, you
and
can
then
literally make a joke out of window curtains or something, like,
Exactly. And then Instagram's like, look at me, look at me, look at me. Like,
that's it. Yeah, that's
that. Instagram's more that kind of vibe. But obviously we're overgeneralizing, and there's so many different aspects in people within this platform, but there's definitely like sort of personality traits within it. All right. What was the first negative experience that you remember from having social media? Whether that was something you did or something that happened to you?
So Philippe had Facebook for years and didn't have any friends on it.
I've had bare friends, mate. Bare friends on Facebook, bro. Hey, Rahat, bro. Talk about your situation, my dude.
Yeah, let's start with you, Rahat, bro.
You can't shoot. You can't shoot at me first, bro.
Oh, come on! I was just having fun. Now we're gonna get deep. So I mean, I don't have much to say about sort of MySpace and Facebook. God, I'm getting my words mixed up. There were quite normal times of social media for me. It was Twitter, which was the big impact on my life. So around sort of 2011, I was in year 11 at school. Started getting quite big into Twitter through a few other friends, and really sort of getting sucked in more and more into this side of Twitter, which is it was very evil. It's the side we were just referring to, where people make really brutal, outrageous jokes. It's a lot of attention seeking on there, and at the time, I was going through a phase where I didn't really actually have that many friends. I was hanging out with a few people, but I didn't really feel close to anyone, and I sort of started to sit in my room a lot and divert my attention onto Twitter, and I'd sit there and I'd tweet all day, every hour, every half an hour, try and say stuff that was funny, try and get retweets. But then essentially over the years, until I met you, sort of, Ollie, got to 2012, 2013, got worse and worse, and I just became this person I really wasn't. I don't know if you can describe it, Ollie, from a perspective that you saw from the outside when you met me. You could be brutally honest here, like.
Yeah, no, I'm trying. It's so long ago. I'm trying to think back. Like,
it's like having an alter ego. Like, there's you.
It is
the person in real life, and then this person you create on Twitter, and all you're doing is voicing opinions for attention and like trying to say stuff to get people's attention, whether it's to piss people off and trigger them, or get a reaction out of people. And then the thing I never realized is how much Twitter consumes you, and especially if you're lacking your social life in one sense, and you're resorting to Twitter, then it starts to suck you out of your social life more and more and more, and consume you into this world where it's really delusional, and it's based so much around this fake attention you create for yourself, and you get some sort of temporary satisfaction out of it. And it was awful, and it pushed me to a point where I was this horrible person. I mean, I used to tweet horrible stuff, and wasn't a nice person at all. And it really started to affect my life eventually in the real life. But then because Twitter meant so much to me, then I stopped caring about what people thought of me in the real life, which is, how wrong is that? Dangerous. It's wrong. And there's so many people on Twitter who are like that at the moment. And like, you wonder, like, you spend all this time in the day tweeting and making all these jokes, what is the real you like? Because a lot of the time I've heard was, you've got a lot of these people who are crazy on Twitter and whatnot, and like in person they're actually really normal. They're nothing like what you'd compare their tweets to. And it is literally just this alter ego that Twitter creates from you. And, a lot of the time, almost all the time, it's not a positive thing. But like, eventually I started coming out of it when I met you, Ollie, because you were the polar opposite to me, and you were someone who wasn't a big social media user at all, and especially through Twitter. And then when you met me in person, and you sort of I started to show you my tweets, like, look at this, Ollie. You were like, bro, like, you're not like this at all. Why are you saying this stuff? And then, you started to give me clarity over the years, like, why are you resorting to Twitter so much? What is this attention really? What are you gaining from it? Why are you doing it? And I started opening up. I was like, you know what? I don't really have many friends, like I found my friends on Twitter almost, like there's the little things I was looking forward to, but it wasn't right, but you don't acknowledge it. Do
you know what? I appreciate you for being honest with that, man. That's something that you've been honest with throughout, and that you've owned, and you've taken responsibility. And that taking responsibility is like one of the biggest things that we spoke about on the podcast so far. So like, first of all, bro, like, I appreciate you like being that honest and real, man. And like, I think it provides insights maybe to people that have been like on the receiving end, who maybe have been on the receiving end of negative comments. And it's like understanding that we've all said horrible things, we've all had horrible things said to us, and it's understanding that a lot of the time, like, it's not personal. It's not, they're not deliberately just trying to hurt you. There's other reasons, there's other things there that cause people to act in this kind of way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. It's a desperate cry for attention sometimes. And when someone's got a desperate cry for attention, there's usually a deeper reason behind it as why this person's suffering like this.
Absolutely.
I was going to say social media though, like I've never had any problems with social media. I'm not going to lie, boys. So I can't really comment in that sense. But I think like your age, Rahat, I'm assuming you were like 17.
Yeah.
Around that time.
But like, again, it reflects of you, Philippe, as well, because you know you've got like a big group of boys, and you're a very out and about person, and you had a very close circle and stuff. You were doing you're doing stuff a lot more that didn't require you to feel like you found comfort on social media, because it wasn't a necessity in your life. I feel like
listen, like at 17, 16, you're immature, so your outlook on life, you're going to be easily influenced what things are put out on social media. So it's very easy to be influenced anyways. So I was as well, but I just did my thing anyways. I was going to say, like, immaturity is a massive one. That's might affected you big time, and it affects loads of people as well.
I had so much lack of understanding of you know, social standards and you know what's important in a social life, and it was lessons I learned much later on in life, and you know, just got me to where I am now. But my transitional period is such a deep growth from coming from one place which was completely on the opposite end to where I am now. Realization.
That's sick to hear. Oh, boys, ask me, because I got a story.
Go on,
I got a story that I love to tell. So I was never big into social media. I never really have been. Like, I used to play about with it, but I was never like massively on it. And then we're at university, and I had Facebook, and I used to use it a little bit. Still didn't really use it that much. And then one day, I'm sure I've told you this, boys. We're at university. We're in the third year. I'm at home, and suddenly I just hear there's a knock at the door, and then suddenly I open the door, there's two policemen there, and they're saying,
"Oh, this story." Yeah. Oh, wow.
Go on, bro.
So I knock on the door, you see two policemen. Like, it doesn't matter how innocent you are. When you see two policemen wearing that fluorescent yellow, you instantly think, what have I done?
Yeah.
And so they arrested me, and they said, you know, you're being arrested for a serious crime. And I was racking my brain. I thought, my mum was there. She was all panicking, like, she didn't know what was going on. And they were like, you're being arrested for assault, for serious assault. And like, I couldn't believe it. And then I was like, well, where? Like, how? And you know, they told me that it happened in a place that I'd never been to. So I knew then.
It was in Essex or something, wasn't it?
Windsor. It was in Windsor.
Windsor. Oh, okay, yeah.
Never been. I've been there when I went to Legoland, and I said to the officers, I was like, I go, guys.
Don't do that to me. I was having my coffee.
Bro, I go, guys. Honestly, the last time that I went to Windsor was Legoland, and they started laughing, but they were like, yeah, okay, cool, mate. And they got me in the back of the car. An hour in the cell. I was locked up. I was put in these funny clothes. I was then taken in the back of a van for an hour and a half away to travel back to Windsor, then put in a cell for another hour. Then I was being ready to set up to go to the interrogation to be interviewed. And I remember people were looking at me. It was so weird. And this is like, maybe this can resonate with some people who've been in trouble before. But when I was in that police station, they were looking at me like I was scum. They were looking at me like I was a bad guy. And I remember before I was about to be taken into the interview room, this woman said to me, you know, this guy said to the woman that was interviewing me, like, are you going to be okay with him? Do you think you'll be safe with him? I couldn't believe it. Like, I couldn't, and the way they were talking about me, like I wasn't even there. And the reason I want to emphasize that is because there's a lot of people that have probably been in that situation, and they've been devalued. And they've been made these assumptions about them. But this is all going to link up in a second. So anyway, I went to the interview. They said, do you want a lawyer? And I said, no, I don't, because I had nothing to hide. And apparently that was a silly thing to do, to not ask for a lawyer. They asked me a million questions. Obviously, I was able to give honest answers because I was never there and it never happened. And eventually they kind of come to the conclusion like, oh, okay, this isn't you. So I was like, well, why did I get brought in here? And then they take this paper and they slip it out. And on that paper is a picture of me and Rahat from my Facebook profile. And so they told me that the person that actually committed this crime had the same name as me. And what they've done is they've gone onto Facebook, they typed in the name, and they'd seen me and Rahat ready to go on a night out in our university pop up. And they thought, yeah, maybe this is him. Eventually, they worked out it wasn't me.
But there isn't a million Ollies in the UK, bro.
Yeah, there's a couple. But yeah, they let me go, and they called up like weeks later apologizing and saying, you know, it wasn't me. But after that, I deleted my Facebook and I was done with it.
You're done with it, yeah.
I was done with it. So it can be used for good, and it can also get you in trouble, you know?
The thing is, I'll say the positives, man. The positives.
I see Rahat's moving, but I don't see any noise. I don't hear any noise coming out.
No noise, bro.
Yeah, you know when you don't hear from Rahat in a couple minutes and something starts. Oh,
wait,
no.
Hear me now?
Yeah, you're back.
Yeah. Go on, Rahat. I was going to say something, but I think...
I was like, why is Ollie keep interrupting me? I was trying to speak.
That's so jokes.
4 times I tried.
I just saw you doing this.
No,
I was like, bro, why am I not hearing anything?
Headphones next episode.
I was like, is this Solus talk? So is this Solus talk? Like, no, so what I was saying was it's quite funny from my end with this story, because I was the last message I got to you was, I'm getting arrested, bro, for something I've done in Windsor, or something like you got some sort of information out to me.
Yeah.
And I felt a message in your, I can't remember, someone from your family, and like I was panicking for you as well. I was trying to like go detective mode, and I was like, if Ollie didn't do anything, I'll figure this out myself. Police can't do anything. And I was going onto Facebook, and I'm like, right, so Ollie's name is spelled with what is a Y. That's not very common. Like, how many Ollies do you know with a Y?
Yeah, that's true.
Like, and then I was like, hold on, it's probably the person who gave the name just said Ollie, and the police officer probably wrote O-L-L-I-E. So I went onto Facebook, and then I was like, typed in Ollie Sheehan with the I-E, and there I instantly see some guy who's like near Windsor, and he looks like an absolute nut job.
Yeah, we won't bait out too much.
No, yeah. But basically, I kind of, without assuming, I looked at it, I was like, it's got to be him. There's no chance it can be Ollie. And like, I think that's what happened in the end, because you found out that the person who gave the name just sort of said it to the officer, and they wrote it down. So they probably just wrote your first name wrong, and only searched by Ollie with a Y, and assumed it was you because you're the only one that came up.
Yeah. Listen, boys. We're talking about the negatives. What's the positives? What's the positives of social media?
The positives are right here. And I'm going to show you the positives. Right? It's underscore. It's underscore. Here's the positives right here, boys. Right? So I didn't use social media that much. I never used it that much. But as I began to set up my business, like, it was one of the most useful tools. And like, as you guys know, and anyone that's watching and has an idea about like who I am, I've used it to put out content. I've used it to help a lot of people. I've used it to set up a business. I've used it to really develop myself. Like, in the way, maybe, you know, where the opposite of what you were saying, Rahat, earlier, like it was bringing out the worst in you. I actually used it as a tool much later, years later, to begin to bring out the best in me. And that's what we're all doing right now, actually, us three on this thing right here that we're putting out on social media. Yeah, so let's talk about, because this is where I feel like going with this, is like self-criticism, judgment, like being influenced by people. Like, how do you guys feel about that with social media?
I'd say Instagram's probably my biggest platform I use. I don't really touch the other platforms that much at all anymore, if I'm honest. So definitely I'll go into talking about Instagram in a minute. I think Philippe was about to say something.
But... No, go on.
I've got a question actually, if that's cool. Do you think social media has made people more self-conscious and self-critical and judgmental, or less?
You know what, Ollie? I'm not going to give you a proper answer. I think it depends on the person. I think it really depends on the person. If you're already self-critical outside social media, you're going to be even more self-critical and judgmental. Yeah. Me personally, I don't really care. So I'll get on social media, whatever kind of thing. I don't care. So it depends on your personality.
So it's like it's exposing it, isn't it?
Yeah,
like,
man. Yeah.
It's like exposing you rather than like creating bad people. It's just giving a platform.
If you're already a bad person, you're gonna be bad on social media as well. Yeah. If you've got problems, you're gonna start doing hate speech on Twitter.
Yeah.
If you're a good guy, you're gonna open a business like Ollie. If we're gonna start a business as well ourselves, or start a podcast like we're doing now, we're gonna try and promote it using social media. It's just depends on what you want to do in life. So I think it's a nice reflection of society.
100%. Do you know what? Yeah. Do you know why I love social media? Instagram allowed me to completely reinvent myself.
Yeah.
And when I say reinvent myself, it actually allowed me to express the parts of me that I wouldn't have been able to express before. Like, because there was no space for it. Like I was into mindfulness and thing like 5 years ago, and it was never heard of. Like, the people that I was around at that time would laugh, and still do, at the work that I do.
Yeah, don't laugh.
Excuse me, I burped. Yeah, guy, come on, guys, don't laugh. But on a serious one, like, it created space for me to begin to express myself. And like, depending if you come from different parts of the world, maybe you come from different environments, you don't always get that space to express different parts of you. And like, what that did for me is it allowed me to actually express a real part of myself, and it allowed me to connect with people that would appreciate, respect, and actually resonate with that part. And so what it did is, in the same way, Rahat, where like, you know, Twitter became a part of you in the dark sense, like moving on forward, like Instagram became for me like the positive sense. Like, it allowed me to express the best parts of me that I wasn't allowed to express with the people that I was around at the time. And like, through that, I gained confidence because people resonated with it. People were saying, hey, this is true, I like this. And through that, like, I built a lot of self-confidence through Instagram. And a lot of people say, like, you shouldn't do that through Instagram, you know, real life. But actually, it was Instagram that allowed me to really express myself in a way that gave me the confidence to then to go out into real life and begin to express myself out there. So I think it's so true where you're saying, Philippe, like, it's a powerful thing. It's just like, are you using it to express your best parts, or are you using it to express your problems, you know?
Talking about...
Go on, Rahat, go on.
No, go on.
No, I was going to say, in terms of people you follow on Instagram as well, like, if you're following people that post and rubbish stuff that's going to influence you negatively, that kind of shows your personality as well. Like me personally, I'm going to follow like business people or like mindfulness people or successful people. Do you know what I mean? I'm more interested in the positive side of life. But yeah, go on, Rahat.
No, relating to what you said, definitely treat your social media as a book that you can always have in front of you that's can be the right or wrong influence in front of you. I mean, like, for example, on Instagram, let's say if you want this influence of cooking good food and, you know, being healthier and going to gym and stuff, then you have the opportunity to follow the right people there and have that influence coming into you in front of you all the time. Whereas if you know, there's nothing wrong with it, I haven't got anything against it, but if you want to follow 35 different meme pages and all you're going to see is people cracking jokes and making evil banter about different things, then you know, you're going to become desensitized to it. Then it's always going to start to embed into your personality. And, you know, make sure you have the balance and make the right choice of what you filter out to be in front of you and not there. Because, you know, if you consider yourself someone who's spending hours and hours a day on social media, then really be careful of what you're filling your eyes with. It was going to relate to my next point with, so like pictures on Instagram. So I know there's a large community of people who obviously like to post photos regularly of themselves and things.
I was gonna ask this. Yeah, I like this.
And like me, I'm a culprit. I mean, I love a good photo.
You love a little topless photo here and there.
And yeah. Of course I do.
Start posing all sorts of it.
Yeah, no, and I'm a big user of it. And it's like, you know, I've been accused or asked so many different things before, and it's like, you know, do you do it because you seek attention a lot? You know, what is the need for it? Is it because you're insecure, or is it, you know, are you trying to impress people? Are you trying to gain approval? And I've seen so many different people who you can say they almost post the same things, but the intentions behind the brain are always going to be really different.
Yeah, that's true.
So like, I always like coming up with simple examples of stuff to make stuff clear. So let's say we've got two different people. We're both going to post a picture of us on the beach in our bikini or in a swimwear. Now, person A just likes this photo of themselves, and, you know, they want to put it on the Instagram. They don't really care who's liking it or who's into it, but, you know, for them, it's a place of comfort to put the photo up, and it's as far as that's going to go. And then you've got person two, and I do know a lot of people like this. So, you know, you've made the photo, then you've sent it to 3 or 4 people. You're asking if this photo is all right first. Then you're messing around for 3 hours and double checking it's perfect. And then you're putting it on Instagram, and then you're checking back and forth how many people have liked it, how many views it's got, you know, who's liked it, are there comments on it?
Yeah.
And you have to really question, are you person A or person B right now? Because I don't think there's anything wrong with posting a photo on Instagram, but then you have to ask yourself, is this coming from a place where I'm really trying to seek approval? Am I really insecure
100%.
about this? You know, how much time am I wasting just to make sure this thing is perfect?
You know, bro, that's so key. Bro, that Rahat, you're so key. Like, the word that we use all the time is like intention. And it's like, what am I actually trying to achieve this? Like, a lot of the stuff that we do is automatic. And especially when it comes to social media, like, how unintentional are we on social media? Like, for me, and I'm guilty of this, we just get on and we just go, like, we just look through without intention. You know, I think, like, what have I actually jumped on for today? But like, relating to what you said, Rahat, it's so true. Like, I see this a lot. I see this because I work with a lot of women. I see this more with women. And it definitely seems, because, you know, we live in a society that, especially for women, it's very much about your appearance. And I see a lot, you know, their intentions are to get this validation, to get this acceptance through some likes, through some comments. But the reality is likes are going to come and go. And it's usually a sign that something deeper is missing within. And we spoke about the inner child briefly, about self-love and these kind of things here. But what I think is so important is being honest with yourself and saying, what am I uploading this picture for? Okay, it's okay to it's all right to someone to comment and say you look good. There's nothing against that. But am I feeding on it to feel something that's missing within me already? And I think if you ask yourself that question honestly, you're going to get an answer.
I've got a real life example as well. When you get a haircut, like I've got a haircut now, I feel 10 times better.
I feel like a new man.
I feel good. I feel really good. But it's like posting, when you post a nice photo on Instagram, it's like, oh, I look good, man. Like I look good kind of thing. But like the problem with certain people, it's like, oh, how many likes I'm gonna get? How many likes? You know what I mean? It's not thinking, oh, I'm just posting it because I want to post it. It's more like, I want to get like 50, 60, 70, 100, 200, 300. Do you know what I mean?
100%. And it's an addiction. Like we're actually addicted to our phones. Like one of the things that like I've come to deep a little bit more is like the people that set up these social medias have the best people, the most intelligent scientists in the world.
Oh, bro.
Creating it in a way so that you're addicted to it, so that you feed on it.
The
algorithms, everything. Like, trust me, they found the best people in the world, and they've literally said, "How can we make people stay on here as long as possible?" And they'll field on your insecurities. The best talent in the world are making sure you stay on your phone for as long as possible.
The way I see social media now is it's a vortex. It is literally a vortex, and you know you can hang around near it, but it's very easy to get sucked into it if you're not careful. And once you get sucked in, it's very hard to get yourself out. And it's something that, you know, if you're not self-aware, then you're going to be consumed more and more and more. You know, whether it's posting photos and then you want to post more and more photos and keep getting more and more approval, and then you eventually start thriving off it, or whether it's just looking at it and scrolling all day and like feeling like you're not getting enough of it and spending more and more hours of the day. But you have to be careful. This is a whole universe of social media, and it is constructed very carefully to either consume you or potentially be something that you can grow off.
You know what? You know what I was going to say, Rahat, because going back to your initial points in the first bit of the podcast, and you were saying about your insecurities when you were like 16, 17 on social media. I think really the people that shouldn't really be on social media is like it's controversial, but I think really young people, in terms of like teenagers, because they get easily influenced.
They need to be protected.
They do need to be protected. So there should be more restrictions on social media.
There is.
Big time, man.
100%.
And the thing is already,
the thing is, the reason that is because like it's still new. Like it's still new. Like social media has transformed the way that everyone's lives, but it's so new. Like we probably have some information about like the damages, but like a couple years ago, like, you know, more than a couple years ago, people used to say smoking was good for you. People used to say milk. People used to claim milk does stuff that it doesn't do. So it's like we're not going to be aware of the consequences and the dangers of social media until we actually have like all this science come together. And I think it's coming together now. And that's one of the things, like young people need to be protected.
Exactly.
Because you're in the playground, and someone can say something horrible to you and it ruin your day. We've all been there. We've all been there. You can be on social media, and if you've got a lot of attention, you can have hundreds of people pulling you down in one moment. And some people can't hack that. It takes a lot of strength to hack that. And a lot of people have called it a day.
That's what I mean. It might be linked to more like mental health problems, suicide.
It does.
It's a massive issue.
1,000,000% does. 1,000,000% does. And again, I think it's going back to this theme that I feel like it's a consensus. Like it can be used for something great, and it can be used for something bad.
It's scary. It's scary because when I was growing up, like things are so much more stricter. I mean, you can remember the MSN days, jumping on and like playing little games, playing these little games like RuneScape or Habbo Hotel, or whatever. I mean, I only used to love Habbo Hotel. I remember.
I love Habbo Hotel. Shout out to my Habbo Hotel people.
But like the way my parents were so crazy and strict about the internet and like almost scared of it, like, you know, I'd be playing something like RuneScape, like, aren't there strangers, you know, like, you know, don't speak to any of them, you know, and still
that's true.
There was this fear around it, and like it's quite scary now because that standard has completely gone now, and like for kids growing up now, it's normal for them to jump onto something like social media. It's not even just a game, and it's something where they have unlimited access to everything and everyone, every influence, every word, everything, and
it's good
as well as there's, you know, the good that can come out from it. There's so much danger out there, but it's become so normalized in today's society that kids can jump onto these things, and you know the way that it's consuming them and the way it can lead them in any direction, it's not as acknowledged as you'd think.
But you know what? Yeah, there's a lot of good that comes out of social media as well.
No,
like,
there is.
So let's say all the stuff that's going on in America, you've seen a lot of people like stand up to racism and using social media as a positive platform to like promote like racism bad, like we shouldn't be doing this kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
But, like the hashtag Blackout Tuesday kind of thing.
Yeah, you're 100%.
That's really good, man.
100%.
Social media is amazing for things like that, man.
You know what, Philippe?
You just more awareness globally, bro.
Bro, you just triggered like,
thing,
bro, you just triggered like something in me, bro. Like 100%. Like it was when you said social media, and it made me think like this is the new media. Like you see all these news outlets who control the media. Man. Like they put out a certain narrative.
They don't have control over this.
They put out. They don't. The media's in trouble. Social media, and this is why, because social media, it has the power of the people. The people control the social media. Before, the media was controlled by someone else, and it still is to a large extent.
Isn't it?
Exactly, but now the power is with the people, and now we get to control the narrative. Each as individuals, we get to come together and control the narrative. And like this Black Lives Matter and the amazing stuff that's going on right now, and the amount of awareness, I don't think that would have happened on the news.
No,
it would have been given some narrative of people are doing this happened there.
No way, bro.
But they can't control the narrative anymore, and that's why each individual has a responsibility and they have a power, because they are a narrative. We're an individual narrative that creates this collective narrative.
The power of social media is that you don't see anywhere else is the power of trending. This whole idea that things can trend, and if one thing gains slight popularity, the potential of it is unlimited.
Massive.
And yeah, it has both positives and negatives. But yeah, I think that's the power the media don't control anymore. If something gets brought to light and people see this and it starts to trend, and the media can't stop that, they can't control it anymore. The only thing they can do is try and shift people's opinions on it. But even nowadays, people are starting to realize the things that the media can do to try and shift our opinions, but the power of social media is starting to overpower that. And I really I'm starting to see, these media places starting to shiver. And the danger that's coming towards them, and the recognition they're getting for the amount of manipulation they've done to the world.
So true. Boys, I've loved this talk. I don't know about you guys, but
I like this.
I've loved this talk. I like where it's headed, and I think we've touched on some amazing things. Is there any bits you guys want to share? Is there anything on your hearts or your minds that you want to share to people listening out there?
So
I just wanted to highlight again, as earlier, just if you're someone who's using social media and you want to understand whether you're sucked in this vortex of insecurity and pain and seeking approval somewhere, or if you just consider yourself a general user, really take a step back and look at your actions outside of the social media. So like relating to my point about posting the photos, how much is it consuming you before you post it and outside of the photo in real life? Are you one of those people who are constantly checking your phone trying to see who's liked it? Are you asking for so many opinions just to know that you posted the right photo? If you're doing these things, then maybe take a step back and ask yourself, is this right? Is there something to work on here? Am I really posting the photo just for me? And see if it's something you can resolve. Really do your research and see where you can find a sense of comfort without having to be insecure.
I love that. What are you feeling, Philippe?
I was just going to say, like, individual responsibility at the end of the day. I always go back to the same point, but it's so true in society, man. It's always that collective blame sometimes of certain things as well. Not all things, but certain things. But at the end of the day, if you improve as an individual, you're going to improve society collectively all the time. So going on social media, if you've got a bad mindset, you're going to promote bad stuff. If you prove yourself as an individual, you start reading positive things, you start doing positive things, affirmations every day. You're gonna get on social media. You're gonna follow and post positive things all the time.
It's like a domino effect, and it will help so many other people. That's amazing.
Straight away, and that's the good part of social media. It spreads like wildfire.
It's true. All right, boys. I think touching on both, like being intentional. This is form of like a mental health problem, because I've been so guilty, and it's draining to look at your phone and you're consuming all these different stuff. So just every time you pick your phone up, say, what am I looking for? Like, what am I looking for? And most of the time, it'll be nothing. It'll be to fill a void that you feel. And so be aware of that. And like you said, Philippe, awareness is key for that.
Yeah, bro.
But I think that's everything, boys. I really enjoyed this one, guys. I think it was great.
Yeah, man. So, like, share, subscribe. Let's wrap it up. Episode, what's episode is? 3 or 4? 4. 4. Episode 5. This is going to be released on Friday. Friday, isn't it?
Friday night, Saturday morning,
Yeah. Cool. Guys, let us know what you think. We appreciate your feedback. We've had some great feedback already. It means the world to us. And honestly, we've just started out. So every single message that we get we're sharing it, we're looking at it, and we're seeing at ways that we can improve. So if there's anything you want to share, we'd really appreciate that. But yeah, take care, guys.
All right, peace and love. Yeah, peace and love.
See ya. Bye.